What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the stream. And as you can tell from the title of this video, it is time for the trade deadline. So we are sitting at 43 and 58, still 15 games under 500, playing a little bit better than I think I could have expected. So let's go through before we show you off some of the trades. Let's show you how some of the guys have been doing. Santiago Espinal has picked it up in the power department. He's up to that 437 slugging. His average still solid. This guy has been everything I could have asked for. I'm really happy to see what he is doing so far. Tommy La Stella has stayed strong on his season. We're going to look to move him at the deadline. Darren Ruff has also stayed strong on his season despite losing tons of overall due to regression. He might be moved. Who knows? Joey Gallo has been an absolute disappointment. I am going to trade him, and I think I might get a better return than maybe he's worth, but we'll see. You guys can drop a comment about what you think of the return I get for him. Was it fair? Was it not fair? We shall see. Yasiel Puig, again, been really solid. He's going to be traded in this episode as well. Miguel Andujar has just been pretty much a disappointment. Probably will hang on to him for at least one more year because, we don't have a whole lot of talent around in general, so we got to try to keep what we got. He is a 78 overall, so probably going to be one of our better players. The Yerminator, we moved into a full-time DH role, and he is murdering the baseball. I may have made a mistake playing Michael Lorenzen all those games at the DH, but hey, we made up for lost time. The Yerminator's going crazy right now. Only the 5 home runs, but that slugging is up over 500 with a 331 average. Really love to see it. Anthony Bemboom has slowed down from his moderately hot start, but still, by his standards, not a bad season. Nicky Lopez has picked it up. He's hitting 273 now, and that slugging percentage still up in 370, so not too bad. His WAR is a 2, so he's playing pretty good defense for us. So I'm not too disappointed. Would love to see a little bit more with the bat from Nicky, but not the end of the world there. Scott Kingery, average on base percentage are bad, but the slugging is still over 400. Lars Nootbaar looks like he can fill an everyday player's role. He's been hot for a while now, so we are going to get him into the everyday lineup after this trade deadline. Zach Short, again, just a depth guy we're keeping in the majors. Might send him down after the trade deadline, depending on how things shake up. And then Rene Pinto has actually had, I'd say, a pretty solid rookie year up here in the majors. So checking out the pitching rotation, Frankie Montas, not pretty ever since coming back from injury. We're still going to move him at the deadline here because he's got a pretty good track record, and he's starting to settle in a little bit of late. That FIP is a little higher than you'd want. Parker Dunshee is unsurprisingly starting to slow down a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to keep him in the rotation the rest of the season. I might end up sending him down. I don't know. It just depends how things will shake out. Michael Lorenzen's been okay. Will we get something from him at the deadline? Who knows? We'll take a look at 13 losses, which is more an indication of our team and how we look as a whole. Really slowed down with the bat since I moved him out of the lineup. He actually has still been getting pretty regular at bats because he has the two-way player status now. So kind of nice to see that the computer is throwing him in the lineup every now and then. Carlos Hernandez, not the season I was hoping from out of him, but he has grown 2 overall, it looks like. So we'll see what we can get out of him in future years. Dallas Keuchel is going to be a surprise move at the deadline for us. I did not expect to get much out of him, but I guess we got a pretty decent defense behind him because he's been able to keep himself to a sub-4 ERA. And there's actually one team that was showing a little interest in him that I'm going to deal him for. So looking at the bullpen, Sean Newcomb's ERA continues to look kind of ugly, but his FIP looks okay, so I feel optimistic there. Carl Edwards Jr., I'm probably going to end up cutting him after the trade deadline. He's been pretty bad. I pitched with him one time. I got the nostalgia, and then I'm like, all right, let's time to move on. Jay Jackson's been pretty good for us. Well, moderately good at that 4.03 ERA. Jason Adam has been outstanding with the 1.95 ERA, 72 strikeouts in 55 and a third. So that's impressive. You look at the K per 9 numbers there and his FIP at 2.7. So you love to see that. He's going to be in our bullpen for maybe the next couple of years if he can keep pitching like that. Kenya Middleton has settled in. His ERA was near 6, so he's started to settle down in recent weeks. Brooks Rowley's been rock solid with 3.72 ERA. Pedro Stropey, just going to keep on to him for the rest of the season just for nostalgia. Not really doing that well for us. And Pierce Johnson has skyrocketed. He must have had a couple of bad outings because his ERA shot up like crazy. His FIP's doing okay. So, yeah, he's given up quite a few home runs. So, we are not going to move him at this deadline because of the poor performance. But that's okay. We still have some time left to trade him in this franchise. So doubling back to look at some of our minor leaders, Mickey Moniak has started to pick it up of late. The power numbers aren't there, but you see he's starting to up that average and on-base percentage a little bit, so that is promising. William Contreras has just had an awful season. I was trying to get him a little bit of confidence boost in the minors before bringing him up, and it just kind of backfired on me, so that's not good. Greg Deichmann slowed down a little bit. We might get him in the majors after the trade deadline. Who knows? We shall see. PJ Higgins, honestly pushing for a call-up right now. I might have to bring him up just because he's hitting so well. Taylor Trammell, I'm going to try to get him in the majors in the second half of the season. That has been a really, really good season at AAA. He's showing me I'm ready to put some confidence in him and bring him up as soon as we find a spot. Carter Kieboom has been awful. Still hasn't really quite improved since. Let's see, anybody else from... Nope, nobody to show you there. And then down in a AA, see Tyler McDonough, not hitting for a lot of power, not hitting for a lot of average. That's one of our top prospects. Gunnar Henderson has started to pick it up a little bit. He's hitting for a better average. However, slugging, not quite there. Not the best season from our top prospect that we would have hoped. Tyler Gentry, who was hurt early in the season, has been just on a tear this year. You see the numbers right there. Only 123 at-bats, but he is looking really good. We did lose, what's his name? Carson Taylor to a torn hamstring. So that was one of our top catching prospects who was having a really good year. So Drew Millis has been forced into the starting lineup there. Not great at all there. Cole Roeder has cooled off. He's got that slugging just barely north of 400 right now. And then that should be it for those guys to mention. So let us head to the trade window to talk about some of the guys we will be dealing. And we are going to start with Frankie Montas. So I actually put him on the trade block to see what teams were interested in. And one of the teams that popped was the Cardinals, which makes sense because they don't really have anybody in their rotation except for Jack Flaherty. All of their guys are pitching moderately, like at least decent. So that's your starting rotation there. Adam Wainwright's actually their lowest overall, but he's pitching pretty well. But they could really use a dominant, like high-end starter. Now, Montas is not having the greatest year, but he's settled in of late after that early injury. He's got a good track record over the last couple of years outside of 2020 of success, and he still has a year of team control left. So this is a guy that they're pretty interested in acquiring because they really need help in their rotation. And they just acquired Joey Bart mid-season trade. I don't know why the Giants traded Joey Bart, but they did. And they no longer have a use for Ivan Herrera, so I'm going to take Ivan Herrera. Decent bat, decent defense. I kind of like how he's nice and balanced across the board. So I'm a little bit concerned about William Contreras and his development. So Ivan Herrera is going to step in and probably be our top catching prospect. So that is our first trade down. So the next trade is we're going to be dealing Michael Lorenzen. Now, Lorenzen, again, not having a phenomenal year, but he's pitching okay. And I'm going to trade him to the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are surprisingly in competition for an NL wildcard spot. Now, they could use some starting pitching. They got some decent starters, so he would slot in probably as their third or fourth starter. But the thing about Lorenzen I think is nice is he has a history of pitching as a relief pitcher, and the Diamondbacks could use some relief help as well. So I think regardless of how they use Lorenzen, they're going to get somebody who's going to help them make that push for the deadline or a push for the playoffs this season. And the guy I'm taking from them is going to be Davison De Los Santos. They got a good third base prospect in Zach Geloff there ahead of him. So, and this guy is 18 years old, still pretty far away from the majors. So, not giving up too much for him. You see it's even favoring them a little bit. So, I don't feel like I'm kind of fleecing them for anything right here. And I'm getting a prospect that I quite like, quite a lot of power, especially against lefties. and a decent defender, so I will take that. So the next trade we're going to do is actually kind of a small little mini blockbuster. I'm going to be trading Dallas Keuchel. As you see, I'm trading basically my entire starting pitching rotation away to people. Keuchel was not a guy I had pegged as a trade target. I was just using him basically to eat innings, but he ended up actually pitching pretty well. And a team like the Boston Red Sox could really use a back-end starting pitcher to fill out their rotation. So they do actually have James Paxton, who is not on the 40-man roster because he is technically hurt in real life. So they don't have a lefty in their rotation that can get the job done other than Chris Sale. And they also need somebody to fill in a back end of the rotation spot. So Dallas Keuchel fits for them. I am also going to add in Tommy La Stella because they need a bench bat. They don't really have any solid lefty bench bats coming off for like a pinch hitting or a fill-in role for infield. So La Stella's having a pretty solid season, should fit in well and find a nice little role with the Boston Red Sox there. And then the final guy I'm going to be trading them is Big Yasiel Puig. Jackie Bradley Jr. is the starting right fielder for the Boston Red Sox. However, he is not hitting very well. He's never been a great hitter. He gives you great defense, but since he's not playing center field anymore, the defense doesn't necessarily matter that much anymore. And you see him struggling with those numbers. They really could use a big right-handed bat in their lineup, and Puig would fill that right field void as well. So giving them three players, La Stella and Keuchel are more lower-end role guys, but kind of fit with the Red Sox needs. Puig is more of a big-time get for them. And I am going to start with, when I asked for the suggest trade for Dallas Keuchel, they were saying, oh, we'll just give you Jeter Downs straight up. And I said, oh, that seems like maybe a little bit too much, but I looked at it. Trevor Story's at second, Rafael Devers is at third, and Xander Bogaerts is at short, all for the future. There is no place for Jeter Downs to go. So for them, a throwaway player, even though he's 69 overall and already that B potential. So I figured he would be a nice little return. I also had to go get, you guys know me and velocity, I had to go get Brian Bello, pumping it at 99 miles an hour. That changeup / splitter coming in at 91 miles an hour. B potential, 22 years old. This is a guy I really, really liked. So I'm getting a pretty good return on it already, but I felt like it was pretty worth what I was offering. And then the final guy I'm going to go and get is Miguel Bleis. I went back and forth on whether or not I should take Miguel Bleis because I feel like Downs and Bello are two pretty strong returns for what I'm giving up right now. But then the more I looked at it, I'm like, you know what? Puig is pretty decent. He's probably worth at least Jeter Downs and like a little bit of Brian Bello, and then the other two guys can probably fill out the rest. So I decided I'm going to stick with Miguel Bleis. I need a little bit of center field help. Young player here, 79 potential. So this is a guy that I'm excited for going forward. And then the final trade, I am going to be dealing away Joey Gallo, who has been having a piss poor season, but he's still Joey Gallo and could pop off at any moment, and teams know that, so they might be interested in taking a flyer on him. In addition to Joey Gallo, I'm also going to be sending Darren Ruff, the Creighton grad, who's been having himself a very strong season. And another team that is in surprise contention is the Kansas City Royals. Now, they could use some type of outfield help because Michael Taylor has been actually playing decently, but he's on their bench, so not quite sure what that is. But what they could really use in their lineup is some power. So I think Darren Ruff and Joey Gallo definitely add some pop into the middle of their lineup. And then for them, I debated who I wanted, and I can get Asa Lacy from them. Where is Asa Lacy? Who is 87 potential, and I was like, oh man, that feels like I'm just like highway robbery right now. But I'm going to go through with it. I'm going to ask for Asa Lacy because Joey Gallo is still Joey Gallo. He's an 86 overall with like 87 or 88 potential. He could always pop off for them as they make their playoff push. And then I added in Darren Ruff specifically just to kind of give them a little bit more. I'm also going to take one more guy from them. No, nothing too major. Dylan Coleman, 25-year-old relief pitcher, 98-mile-an-hour fastball, 84 Ks per nine. He's only a 71 potential, which kind of weird considering I really like his makeup. So I'm not really taking them for anything too much because of that 7-1 potential. But it's a guy that I like, and since I'm giving them a little bit more than Darren Ruff, with Darren Ruff, I wanted to take this guy as well. So that is going to be the final trade I'm going to make. And I am going to look. I didn't really consider it, but I might look to see if anybody, I hadn't considered it, but I might look to trade Brooks Rowley. I'm going to see if anybody needs a lefty reliever. I'll let you guys know if I do trade him. I hadn't worked anything out off screen yet, so if I trade him, I will let you guys know in the next video. But in the meantime, in between time, I'm going to go balance out our roster. Probably going to make some cuts. Guys like Carl Edwards Jr. probably aren't going to be on the roster next time you see us on the field. So anyways, I'm going to head out of here and do some of that stuff. And you guys have an excellent rest of your evening. I'm out. Deuces.